All right, Shalom, Rastafari. I want to speak on Nibiru, and the connection with the star, what's known from our Ethiopic sources as the star of doom and gloom, or the Kokav in the Hebrew, Bamarinya, the Kokav, which is the star of the 8th millennium. From Ethiopic sources, it's known as the star of the 8th millennium. Now, this is a picture right here. This is a very interesting picture, and we're going to use this particular picture to describe Nibiru. And this is very interesting. If you look at this particular image. Now, when you look through ancient Egypt sources, you find some very interesting correspondences. So we're going to speak on Aaron and the golden calf as well in this particular presentation. Now, notice, if you will, as we point out right here, notice, if you will, the so-called horns of the bull. Now, of course, first of all, let's deal with some of the disinformation, the misinformation, because we have to get over the disinformation, the misinformation, to get to a more accurate interpretation of the Bible and of these symbols. And now with more technology, and we know that certain things are happening in the heavens, there are certain heavenly signs that are being recorded and witnessed and verifiable. We want to put this together as best as we can. So we're going to, first of all, let's go to the scriptures. Let's go to chapter 32 of the book of Exodus. Now, if you recall, that was the golden calf, what's known as the golden calf, or Yawerk Tija missile, or the image of the golden calf. So let's go to the top. And let's begin right here. This is Exodus chapter 32, verse 35. And it reads, And when the people saw that Moses, he delayed to come down out of the mount. No doubt you recall, whether you've seen it in the movies or you maybe somewhat familiar, Moses goes up to the mountain to get the laws from God on the mountain. There's thunders, there's lightnings, all right, which are signs of God, but not really explained in the modern way that we will look at it. What is causing? Is it just a storm, or is there some extraterrestrial? There's some other superimposition at this particular time. We'll touch on that as well. So the people, the children of Israel, the Beit Israel, as well as the mixed multitude, remember those are mixed multitude, and these particular terminologies must be explained a little bit better. So we have the children of Israel, we have the Hebrews. Remember when the God that revealed himself or itself to Moses revealed itself, it said that it is the God of the Hebrews. Often we hear the Jewish God, or we hear even the God of Israel, but that's not how the God identifies himself, all right? So we have the children of the Hebrews, we have the Hebrew children, we have the Beit Israel, and we have this mixed multitude. So we need to define, well, who are these people in relation with the context of ancient Egypt based on the available data and information that we have today. So anyway, verse 1 of chapter 32, and when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, so he spent longer than they expected, the people gathered themselves together to Aaron and said to him, Up, make us gods, which shall go before us, for as for this Moses, this particular Moses, this is interesting, this Moses, what kind of language is that? This Moses. It's like saying, as for this president, or this leader, or this brother, or that brother, this is the sort of language. Because see, in the Ethiopic, Muse, Moses or Muse, is actually a title, head of a fraternal order in the Ethiopic, Muse. All right, take a note of that as well. So this will explain, and this will agree with this context right here, this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him. In other words, we don't know what has happened to him because he hasn't returned. He hasn't come down. Now, this is another translation from the NET right here that kind of brings this more out. They add fellow here, but they say, and fellow is a brother, for this brother Moses, this brother Muse, this Wendim Muse, right, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt. We do not know what has become, in other words, what has happened to him. So now, here we have the Hebrew, right, the Hebrew of it, but let's just deal with the basic English King James translation firstly and foremostly. So it says, and Yadon said to them, break off the golden earrings. So they had golden earrings. So they were wearing earrings, right, which are in the ears of your wives and of your sons and of your daughters, and bring them to me. So the males, the females, and the wives all had earrings, golden earrings, right? So he said, break them off. In other words, break them off. Break off a piece, like break it off, right? And the people break off the golden earrings which were in their ears and brought them to Harlem or Aaron. So they brought all the gold to him. Verse 4, and he received them at their hand and fashioned it with a what? A gravening tool. Right, a gravening tool. Now remember, the difference between the Hebrews, in the sense that the religion or the way of the Hebrews and the Egyptians of that period of time, was that the Hebrew interpretation, because we have to remember the similarity of symbolism, that the symbolism of ancient Egypt was clearly known to Moses. He was learned in all the mysteries. You understand? He was learned, so this was clearly known to him. So when we look at these images, do we know what he knew? And do we see it the way he sees it? And we need to use the scriptures and the available data to begin to piece this once again together. So he fashioned with a gravening tool after he had made a what? Molten calf. And they said, these. This is interesting. He didn't say this. But he said, these be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. So he fashioned this. So let's see if we can get an accurate picture, an accurate picture of this. I think we have some images here on file that we can bring up that can give us an accurate image. Though there's a lot of images of the golden calf in circulation, but what we are looking for is an accurate image. Remember, it's a golden calf. Often what gets shown to people is a so-called golden cow. All right, what usually gets to be shown to people is a golden cow. What we're looking for is an image that would be of the so-called golden calf. Let's see what, this is some Nibiru images. We don't want to go ahead of ourselves right here. Let's see if we have this right here. Moses, 12th dynasty, Egypt, a very interesting file as well. Okay, here we go, over here. We have it over here. So what's often shown is a cow. However, from our research, this will be the more accurate image of what the golden calf, remember it's not a cow, but it's a calf, would have looked like. All right, a golden calf, what it would have looked like. So it is something to this effect that Aaron, with his gravening tool, engraven and made for the children of Israel, and said, now notice what he said. He said, these be, right, these be. Now, we're told that it was a calf, right? On one hand, we're told that it was a calf. And then we have Harlem or Aaron saying these. Have you paid attention to that? Based on the Masoretic, we're looking at the Hebrew, right? Based on, or the traditional, Masorah means tradition, the tradition of the Hebrews, of the Ihud, of the Jews, right? Of the Ayus, of the black Jews, tradition of the Hebrews, Masorah. It says that these be. Now, if it's a calf and it's these, that means that we have to interpret this in the sense that that there are certain significant aspects which can be taken separately or taken together. The point we was going to make is that the religion or interpretation of spirituality in Egypt at this time, from the ephemeral, in other words, where it is an experience, you see, had become objectified. And this is where the idolatry, this is why one of the first of the words spoken to the Beit Israel in Exodus chapter 20, which is called like the Ten Commandments, Jah's law, the pure word, the will of God, the pure law, the command, the te'izaz, the mitzvah. See, the 10 so-called commands are really one command. It's the 10 words. There are 10 articles, 10 aspects. This is why Yaakov or James say in his epistle in the New Testament, if you break one, you break all, because they are like 10, you could say, parts of one contractual agreement. You understand? Or one command, one word. All right? You have to keep that in mind, because otherwise you're not going to see the full sense. If you look at it as 10 commands, 10 different commands, you're not seeing it in its proper revealed aspect. And this is what's happened in the Western Gentile world and in mistranslation. Western white European mistranslations call the 10 commands, but clearly, according to the text, it is one command, 10 words, 10 articles, 10 parts, all right? And the first and second main parts of it forbids what we would call today idolatry. That means, well, that's thought to mean worshiping an image. Now, what's very interesting is that the Hebrews, and Moses is the point man for this new interpretation, this new consciousness, or returning to the original intent, where it is an experience for the Hebrews and it's not an object. Because this always kind of bothered me a little bit about this area of Scripture. It might bother some of y'all. And you'll say, okay, Aaron, this golden calf, he did it. Maybe the people pressured him. Maybe the people forced him. But then how come he wasn't punished in the same way that the Israelites? Well, okay, he's the brother of Moses, so that might be one of the reasons why he's not given the same sort of punishment. Now, that would seem to be logical, but under further inspection and review, that is